Afternoon, everyone. We appreciate your time and interest in joining us today. We will wait a moment while everyone gets logged into Zoom for our webinar. But as we wait, in case you missed the announcement at the last P3 webinar, the California Department of Education is offering professional development certificates to all attendees of this live webinar. Your professional development certificates will be sent from, and I'm going to read this to you, noreply.upk@gmail.com to the email address provided when you registered. Please be aware that this is an unmonitored, no reply address. Please do not attempt to contact it. If you do not receive your professional development certificate within the next 2 weeks, which is December 3rd, please reach out to us at, I'm going to read to you again, upk@cde.ca.gov. A link to the mailbox will be shared in the chat shortly. Please note that certificates will only be issued to those who attend the live webinar. Additionally, in case you missed the announcement regarding the recording and the PowerPoint slides of our most recent P3 webinar, I am thrilled to share that the recording, PowerPoint presentation, and resource list for the webinar, Fostering Equity-Grounded Emotional Relationships that Reduce the Use of Exclusionary Discipline in P3 Settings, which was held in September 2024, has been posted to the California Educators Together. So exciting. We will share in the chat how to access those resources. Now we'll go ahead and get started with our webinar. Next slide, please. Welcome to the CDE's Using the Classroom Assessment Scoring System class to promote effective interactions and build positive relationships in P3 settings webinar. We are so very excited that you are here with us today. My name is Stephanie Myers. I'm the administrator of the Early Education System Improvement Office, or fondly referred to as EESIO, in the Early Education Division, and I am one of the presenters for today's webinar. We have a few quick logistics to run through before we get started. We will be taking questions and answers in the Q&A feature, so please feel free to communicate with us and ask questions when needed. We will do our very best to address them. Lastly, we will have the slide deck available for those who would like a copy of this webinar. We get that question a lot. And now it is my pleasure to pass it over to Sarah Neville Morgan. Next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for Using Class to promote effective interactions and build positive relationships in P3 settings. This is our 20th edition of the OFAB, or the Opportunities for All branch, pre-kindergarten through third grade, or P3 webinar series. I can't believe we've already done 20 of these. I would like to begin by introducing myself and then today's speakers. So I am Sarah Neville Morgan. I'm a Deputy Superintendent of Public Instruction over the Opportunities for All branch at the CDE. We truly are thrilled and excited to have you all with us today. With me from CDE today are Monique Williams, Administrator of the Program Quality Improvement Office, or PQI, at the Early Ed Division in CDE, and Stephanie Myers, whom you just met. Thank you all for joining us today and speaking on this important topic. Next slide, please. So in this, one of the first questions is why class and class environment? Well, class honors and celebrates the variations in interactions that might look and sound different based on the wide variety of cultural backgrounds, settings, languages, needs, interests, and abilities in our communities. By acknowledging these differences, class ensures that every child's unique context is expected, respected, and valued. Class has two guiding principles to empower educators and amplify practices, with increased attention to strategies that promote more equitable and effective interactions for every child. These principles help educators create inclusive environments where all children can thrive regardless of their background or ability. Next slide, please. As part of the 2023-24 state budget, CDE was mandated to provide guidance on using tools to enhance teacher-child interactions and support quality improvement in the California State Preschool Programs, or CSPP. With this mandate came the implementation of CLASS and the class environment tool. This initiative aligns with the state's commitment to improving early childhood education quality and also to help align as much as possible our state preschool programs to Head Start, who has been required to use CLASS since the fall of 2011, when the Office of Head Start began using the CLASS Pre-K tool during monitoring reviews in their center-based Head Start program. Although the implementation of CLASS Second Edition and the CLASS environment is currently required only in CSPP, we encourage all of our preschool programs through those third grade, early grades to explore these research-based tools. These tools are valuable resources for building an educator-first system that improves adult-child interactions, enhances equity, and ensures classrooms are conducive to effective teaching and learning, crucial components for children's learning and development. Next slide, please. CLASS Second Edition was updated with the specific intention of centering equity to ensure CLASS reflects and supports diverse communities that it serves and provides actionable insights for educators to make improvements in areas that matter most for children. By centering equity, CLASS Second Edition demonstrates a commitment to creating an inclusive educational environment for all children. And with that, I'm really happy to pass it over to Monique to share the resources available and introduce our guest speaker, who I am thrilled we have the opportunity to bring with us today. Next slide, and over to you, Monique.
Thank you, Sarah. CLASS is more than an assessment tool. It's a continuous quality improvement CQI system. The CDE aims to build on the state's existing CLASS capacity throughout the implementation process. The statewide implementation of CLASS tools reflects California's leadership in early childhood education. If you are a P-3 program that is looking to expand or begin your CLASS implementation journey to promote effective interactions and build positive relationships, please visit our CDE CLASS Resources webpage. You can access it by scanning the QR code on the current slide or via the link that will be shared in the chat shortly. Next slide, please. Now we will introduce our guest speaker for today, Dominique McCain. Dominique McCain is the Chief Strategy and Impact Officer for Educational First Steps, a nonprofit enhancing early childhood education in Dallas and Tarrant counties. She also founded the Connect Ed agency, focusing on strategic, impact consulting, and partner engagement. With over 20 years in education and nonprofits, Dominique is dedicated to increasing access to high-quality early childhood programs, improving educational quality, and implementing data-driven solutions. Her work has directly impacted over 100,000 children and 50,000 educators in Texas. Dominique excels in connecting visionary ideas with practical implementation, serving as a trusted thought partner and strategic consultant to educational and nonprofit leaders. Her commitment to long-term systems level change drives her to continually expand her impact around North Texas, the state of Texas, and beyond. Thank you for joining us today, Dominique. It is a pleasure having you with us to share your expertise in California, and I will now pass it to you. Next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Monique. I just want to say that it is my pleasure and privilege to be here with you all today. And so as I go through this information, I'm going to do my best, but I don't promise perfect. So just to start, let's frame our time together. We'll talk about the big picture of the system of class. We'll talk about class domains and dimensions. We'll then lean into our current state or the problem that we want to talk about. And then we'll wrap up with using class as a solution. Next slide, please. The system of class leverages teacher quality to improve child outcomes. So the big picture is that classroom quality is made up of environment supports for teaching and learning and activity settings and educator-child interaction. Using the system of class optimizes on the improvement of teacher practice and also allows us to lean into what statistically we understand to be teachers as the most influential factor in a child's education. Next slide, please. The big picture of class, as Monique mentioned, is also that class is and provides us with a continuous quality improvement system. To ensure data-informed decisions, class has a data-driven CQI system made up of focus, measure, and improve processing. Next slide, please. Class domains and dimensions, as many of you know, the domains are broken into 3 specific domains, which are emotional support, classroom organization, and instructional support. The dimensions that support those domains include positive climate, negative climate, educator-teacher sensitivity, regard for child or student perspectives. So the dimensions that support the classroom organization domain include behavior management, productivity, instructional learning formats. And the dimensions that support instructional support include concept development, quality of feedback, and language modeling. At its core, the system of class is organized in a way that allows us to impact the heart, the hands, and the brains of children. Next slide, please. Our current state, our problem is that suspensions and expulsions in early childhood settings disproportionately affect children of color. Black boys and children identified and suspected to have learning disabilities are often removed from educational settings at rates greater than their peers. Exclusionary practices have been identified to have an interconnected nature with broader societal issues, including food insecurity and housing instability. Given the previous P-3 webinar, I know you all are familiar with some of this information. And so as I wanted to just set the context for the discussion that we'll have moving forward. Next slide, please. So what are some of the underlying conditions or contributors to this current state or problem? Early education programs can inadvertently, due to no one's fault, contribute to these harmful realities in 3 specific ways. One is under-supported early childhood workforce, an under-supported early childhood workforce, which means there may be a lack of access to high-quality professional development and support. A second underlying condition might be environments with too much or too little structure. And a third underlying condition might be racial disparities and implicit bias in practice that leads to exclusionary discipline. Next slide, please. So how might we use class as a solution? Using class as a solution, we would look at class directs our focus on the educator-child interactions that matter the most for children and their success. Class also provides strategies and examples to support effective educator-child interactions across diverse contexts. Class also allows educators to best leverage the space where they teach to focus on children's unique gifts and needs. And lastly, class allows educators to personalize their interactions to focus on children's unique gifts and needs. Next slide, please. In order to foster a holistic approach to classroom management, 10 specific actions are recommended that they be taken by teachers. So for the next 2 slides, we'll look at those 10 specific actions. They are: build relationships, make personal connections with students through kindness, humor, and likability. Establish rules, clearly explain and enforce classroom rules and procedures from the first day of school. Reward desired behavior. Provide rewards for positive behavior, such as solitary, team, or class-based rewards. Use positive reinforcement. Compliment and acknowledge positive behavior to encourage students to continue the behavior. Model desired behavior. Demonstrate respect, kindness, and perseverance to set a positive example for students. Next slide, please. A few other strategies include: build excitement, make learning fun and hands-on, give students choices, and incorporate student interests into the curriculum. Set clear expectations. Make sure students fully understand the rules, procedures, and academic expectations. Interact with students. Interact with students regularly and nip minor disruptions in the bud. Hold students accountable. Hold students accountable and talk privately with disruptive students. And the last strategy that was recommended is to avoid sarcasm. Avoid sarcasm and confront inappropriate language. Next slide, please. Digging into emotional support as an example. In the next few slides, what I would like to do is share with you how we make the connection between those recommended classroom management practices, the dimension strategies that are available to you as a part of the class system, and what that would look like in terms of how we would fully support students in the room. So dimensions are assigned specific strategies that consider diversity of culture and language backgrounds represented in the setting. It considers ages of the children in the setting, including mixed age settings, family child care centers, and transitional kindergarten. It also considers abilities of all children, including equitably supporting children with disabilities. So let's walk through the table that's presented here. In the domain of emotional support, there are specific dimension strategies that are identified to support the dimensions of positive climate, negative climate, educator-teacher sensitivity, and regard for child or student perspectives. Those dimension strategies include, under positive climate, building a caring classroom community. Under negative climate, reducing frequency and impact of negativity. Under educator or teacher sensitivity, ensuring that every child feels safe and supported. And under regard for child or student perspectives, value the contributions of every child. Next slide, please. Now we're going to walk through this alignment between the emotional support domain, the aligned dimension strategies, and those classroom management strategies. The challenge for most of us is that we may or may not be able to execute these strategies based on our own experience. And so what I'm trying to do in this part of the webinar is really help you see the linear connection between the classroom management strategy that you might implement, the class dimension that it aligns to, and the dimension strategy that it would align to as well. So for the classroom management strategy of building relationships, the class dimension would be positive climate, and the dimension strategy would be building a caring classroom community. Said differently, in order for us to build relationships inside of the classroom, we have to lean into the class dimension of positive climate and implement the dimension strategy of building a caring classroom community. For the classroom management strategy of using positive reinforcements, we would have to lean into the class dimension of negative climate. While that may not seem related, it would be, because using positive reinforcement allows us then to apply the dimension strategy of reducing the frequency of and impact of negativity. Under the classroom management strategy of modeling behavior, we lean into the class dimension of teacher or educator sensitivity. We do that by implementing or executing the dimension strategy of ensuring that every child feels safe and supported. For the classroom management strategy of rewarding good behavior, we would lean into the class dimension of regard for child perspectives. This dimension strategy then would be valuing the contributions of every child. Valuing and regarding their perspective is valuing their contributions. I want to share here that the challenge, as I mentioned before, for most of us and our colleagues, is that we are either unsure of how to execute these strategies in ways that center equity and the children we are serving, or we default to executing these strategies in ways that are familiar and come naturally to us as individuals. The former requires us to do harder and more critically important work. At the base of it all, we have to change ourselves oftentimes to benefit those that we are serving. This is a fundamental principle of all servant leadership. And so sometimes it comes more naturally to some of us than others. And so we have to work at it. The best of us want success for our students, and we're willing to do what it takes to get that and give the students we serve the very best that we have to offer. And we also recognize that when we're trying to implement these strategies, there are many variables at play. Next slide, please. To take us just a little bit deeper, we're going to specifically focus on that emotional support, positive climate dimension strategy of building a caring classroom community. How might we do this? We would want to develop and maintain close relationships with children. We want to facilitate peer relationship skills, enjoy time together and have fun, demonstrate respect for children, and ensure every child, again, feels as though they are a part of the community that we're building. Teacher moves and actions are critical for each dimension strategy to take effect. So I'd like to leverage just an anecdotal example using the photo that you see in front of me. When you look at the teacher in this photo interacting with the students in her classroom, you see her enjoying their time together and having fun. You can see that through the smile on her face. By the comfort level of the child, you know that respect has been demonstrated. Each of these children seem to feel as though they are a part of this community that's been built. And so I wanted to just use an example in a photo so that you all could kind of see that strategy being implemented in the photo and in practice. Next slide, please. Here are some examples of what can be done with special populations. Many of you as classroom teachers in the early child care and early childhood settings are faced with a lot of diversity. And so we want to make sure you have some tools in your toolbox for this as well. So for example, language and cultural diversity. Make an effort to correctly pronounce a child's name or nickname and the names of their loved ones, including caregivers, siblings, pets, and their favorite toy, by asking the child or their family for the preferred pronunciations. In order for us to support children with disabilities, we want to make sure that we provide children with disabilities adaptive materials to help them join in a collaborative activity. Next slide, please. So, our final takeaways include emotionally supportive educators understand that children are defining their sense of self and are learning how they connect with others in their communities. Emotionally supportive educators are also supporting this development in a responsive way with intentional actions and consistent routines and moves that make it possible for students to thrive in their classroom. Next slide, please. What happens when a system uses class effectively? Here's where I'd like to just engage you in my personal and professional experience. During my time in the Dallas Independent School District, as Monique mentioned earlier, we were able, as a collective, as Dallas Independent School District, we were able to eliminate out of school suspension for early learners by implementing the system of class and supporting our teachers to really build community in classrooms and really lean into those dimension strategies. Dallas ISD also implements discipline reform that focuses on students' social emotional health through reset centers. I think it's important to note, although it's not on the slide, that it was the implementation of the system of class and the effective implementation that led us to three specific things. We had the data that we needed to support our desire to eliminate out of school suspension for our early learners. And we had specific data around the emotional well-being of students based on the emotional support domain that allowed us to move into not just early learners, but all students in Dallas Independent School District no longer being suspended out of school, but instead being given additional support through what we refer to as reset centers that focus on restorative practices, conflict resolution, and additional emotional wellness and support for students. I hope that you have enjoyed my portion of this webinar. I would love to be able to answer any questions that you may present to the California team and send them to me later. Thank you all. Next slide.
Thank you so much, Dominique, for that incredible presentation. And I have to tell you, this is the fourth time I've been able to listen to you and be a part of your presentations, and I learned something every single time. So thank you so much. Your presentation on using class to promote effective interactions and build positive relationships in preschool through third grade, I have noticed in the chat, has lots of hearts, lots of thumbs up. So thank you so much. As we continue with our webinar, we encourage you to apply the insights shared today to strengthen your classroom and school communities, fostering positive teacher-child interactions that benefit all children and families. So now we're going to transition into our panel discussion. Next slide, please. The moderator for today's discussion is Jade Mill. Jade is a child development consultant in the Early Education System Improvement Office in the Early Education Division here at CDE. Her work at CDE includes supporting the California State Preschool programs with the class implementation by utilizing the Achieving Success and Positive Interactions, Relationships and Environment, or as many of you know in the field, fondly refer to it as the Aspire Grant. Jade has over 14 years of experience working in early education programs, holding various roles along the way. Jade will introduce our panelists who will be sharing their insights and expertise through the panel discussion around today's topic of, you guessed it, using class to promote effective interactions and build positive relationships in P-3 settings. Thank you, Jade, for moderating this panel today, and I will send it over to you. Next slide, please.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. I'm happy to be here today moderating my very first panel discussion. So to begin introductions, I will start with Candice Manasala, MS. Candice is the director of the Child Development Center, CDC, at California State University, Dominguez Hills. She received her Master of Science degree in 2020 from Walden University in Early Childhood Studies. She has over 14 years of experience in early childhood care and education, which includes serving as a site director, an early childhood education specialist, an assistant supervisor of early learning, and more recently, an early care and education program manager. Through these varied assignments, Mrs. Manasala has acquired and honed skills that make her especially well suited to grow and strengthen the ECE programs and ensuring compliance with relevant local, state, and federal statutory requirements, working with parents, and developing curricula that support the development of children across domains. Welcome, Candice. Second, we have Janelle Lawrence. Janelle is an experienced early childhood education professional with over 20 years of experience in state and federally funded early childhood development programs. She has served in many positions, from teacher aide to director to mentor coach, and now is an area child development specialist at Renew Hope Foundation. Additionally, she is a parent of 2 children who were expelled from their early child development program, where they were preschoolers several years ago. This personal experience allows her to understand the need for supporting young children's behaviors early on from different angles. Next slide, please. Third, we welcome Melissa Wheelahan. Melissa is an early learning coordinator at El Dorado County office, where she is part of the team overseeing the Aspire statewide grant. I get to work very closely with Melissa. She has over 20 years of experience working in early childhood education, starting as a preschool teacher and site administrator. For the last 10 years, she has worked at a county level at the Orange County Office of Education, with such roles as QRIS Coach Trainer, Regional QRIS Lead, Child Care and Development Planning Council Coordinator, Class Lead, and Workforce Development. She strongly believes that all children deserve a high-quality early learning experience, preparing them for kindergarten and beyond. And finally, we have Alicia McKinnish. Alicia has 31 years of experience as an early educator and has had the privilege of working in both state and federal programs. For the past 6 years, she has taught early education at Santa Ana College and is a state preschool teacher in Anaheim, California. It is her honor to teach students ranging from very young to those entering the field of early education. Next slide, please. All right, so now that we have introduced our panelists, I will review the questions that I will be asking them for our discussion panel before we take down the slides and begin our discussion. So question 1, how does class help foster positive relationships between teachers and students? And how do you think positive relationships reduce reliance on exclusionary discipline practices? Question 2, can you share examples of how improved interactions and relationships have positively impacted students' learning and development in your classroom or program? Question 3, how can teachers integrate class to enhance classroom interactions without feeling it is an additional task, but rather an embedded part of their everyday routines? And then finally, question 4, what strategies can be used to extend the positive interactions and relationships cultivated in the classroom into the home environment? So now we will take down our slides to begin our discussion panel. And then to get us started with our discussion, I will restate the first question. So again, question 1, how does class help foster positive relationships between teachers and students? And how do you think positive relationships reduce reliance on exclusionary discipline practices? I see all of my panelists on the screen. So we'll start first with Alicia.
Greetings, everyone. It's an honor to be here with you all. It's delayed. So first of all, the key points of the class tool to help reduce reliance on exclusionary discipline practices. The tool does really help educators in the classroom support children's social and emotional development by allowing us to reflect and support the environment. It helps foster positive teacher-student relationships by promoting a supportive and responsive classroom environment where teachers can actively listen to students. Key point there, actively. Provide positive feedback and build connections through individual interactions, which in turn reduces the need for exclusionary discipline practices because students feel more connected to their teacher, more motivated to, quote, behave properly, and that they feel valued and more understood. In our district, we have PBIS, which is Positive Behavioral Intervention Supports. And within our preschool classroom as a team, we blended both the class tool with the PBIS. So that when they move on from preschool into TK and upper grade, they have that connection and those tools to take with them. So it really does help give additional support for those overall social emotional development skills.
Awesome. Thank you, Alicia. I really appreciate how you are really talking about class supporting social and emotional development and how that supports the environment. We know that no matter what grade you're working with, right? Preschool, TK, kindergarten to third, social and emotional development is crucial, and so is the environment. So thank you for that. Who would like to go next? Janelle, do you want?
I could actually piggyback on what Alicia was saying too, as well as here at our center, we like to build the community of making sure that we foster the positive relationship and environment, how Alicia was saying, by building that community with the parents, having that trust. I know we're saying with class, it's teacher-child interaction, but also if we're the foundation being in child development, that we want parents to also have the buy-in and making sure that we engage with them well, that how we communicate with the parents is reflected with the children, and how children reflect and talk to us as educators is the same way. So that's one of the biggest thing, is building that environment, that inclusive classroom setting, and also that it's taken all the way minus classroom, or all the way from classroom setting to the home, so that we can have that strong relationship. I'm also thinking about some positive relationship is, I guess when, for my example, for class, is just the equity of making sure that we have the relationship of respect is the biggest thing for all parents. And I know people are going to say, well, respect is earned, but we also are the ones that are delivering that message, and the one that is allowing how we talk to people the way we want to be talked to. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Candace. Yes, the classroom to home, right? Parents have to have the buy-in and build trust. We need to enforce that respect with them. Great point. Melissa, did you want to give your chime in?
So I agree with what all the panelists have said, but I think something that is elevated is those caring relationships that we create with children. We know that children don't learn from teachers they don't like. So it's really important that as teachers, we are removing our own bias and that we're building those caring, nurturing, loving classrooms for children. And that's just going to help children thrive. And that's going to help children want to come to school every day. And out of that just comes a joy for learning. And wouldn't it be amazing if we sent every child to kindergarten with a joy for learning? Because that will carry over for them for the rest of their educational life, not career. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. All of you each touched on those nurturing, loving, and safe environments, which are super supportive through the class tool. I don't see Janelle on my screen. Is she here? Janelle, did you have anything to add to this question? So we'll move on to question 2 then, and I'll go ahead and read that one again. So can you share examples of how improved interactions and relationships have positively impacted students' learning and development in your classroom or program? It's also important to note here that interactions are assumed to be poor, but rather that there is always room for improvement, right? So interactions are not always poor. There's always room for improvement. So Melissa, I'll go ahead and pass it on to you to open this question up.
Yeah, this reminds me of when I was a teacher in the classroom, and it was the year I got 3-year-olds, and I thought, oh, what are they doing to me? If I got 3-year-olds. And what I learned very quickly was from being coached through the class tool and understanding how important high quality interactions was that 3-year-olds were very capable. They're very capable little human beings that could do a lot of things. And as I learned more about how to have high quality interactions with children, and as I learned about the impact it would make on students, and I started to see these 3-year-olds become super autonomous in my classroom, it just reminded me that we need to base our classrooms on children's needs and really supporting them to be autonomous learners, because then they're joyful. And the consequence of that was that we had less behavior because they were engaged. Everything was planned based on what their interests were and what they really enjoyed. And so I think when we're able to have those high quality interactions with children, we just automatically create a nurturing, caring environment for children.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. Autonomy, right? Creating leaders in our classroom, something that the class tool really does speak to. And that really does help aid in all of the behaviors that we can see in preschool, kindergarten, TK, all the way up to 3. Great. Anybody else?
Yes, yes. I love this because it brings back a great story about a child. I got my first child in a wheelchair a couple of years ago, and it makes me think of how the class tool really helps us focus our environment on that inclusion, like deep in inclusion, not just, a few adaptations here, but really looking into our classroom environment. And I have the smallest little classroom in the entire school district, and it had all these weird shelving. And so using the class tool, we were able to demolish my classroom and be able to purchase adaptive tools for our friend to sit on the carpet with us. But another thing is she was really quiet and was really hesitant to talk at school. And we really wanted to provide her a safe environment, especially like when she was in groups and everything. She felt, kind of intimidated by all the kids. So we came up with some really great tools using to help her communicate. And we were able to create like little potty cards that she could hold up, and we potty trained her. It was incredible. I bought her Frozen underwear, not like Frozen, but like Let It Go. And that just made her feel so incredibly happy and felt super welcome. So it really helps us by consistently using positive reinforcement, listening to all those students and seeing what they really need. It builds confidence and builds motivation for those kids, especially if they're struggling with the disability or those behaviors. Like Melissa was saying, they need to feel like safe and secure in our environments. And you implementing that class tool and self-reflecting as educators really provides a strong foundation for that.
Awesome. So personal stories and personal testimonies on how class supports inclusion. Just to note how important supporting our environment is for our kiddos. Great. Thank you so much, Alicia. And then Candace, did you want to add?
I guess for my example, just to piggyback off of everyone, as before working as a preschool teacher as well as now running a center, I think my biggest takeaway from using class and trying to have more improved interactions with students, but even the staff as a program director is just having intentionality. I'm trying to give my example when just taking a moment and pausing when you ask a question. So one big thing when I was a trainer, but even getting trained myself and just talking to the staff or the children is giving them that moment when you ask them an open-ended question, like we say, of like the question of the day, and letting that child just, if they're able to, even if you're doing from 0 to 5, right? Like just giving them that moment. Do you understand me? Locking your eyes with them, getting down to their level and actually having them be able to respond. Because I know as a teacher, but even as a person, a human being, like, let's go, let's answer, and you don't want to just keep doing that because sometimes you being so reactive loses a child, or even for me, my team. I just need to take a break and pause and actually engage with a child and staff, I'm talking about both, and just actually listening to them because that's all they need sometimes, because there's a lot of things going on, but that moment in time can really connect with that child and that teacher or that colleague and really give you what you want to hear and listen to, or actually help them the way you need to. So that was just my little takeaways, just pause and actually be intentional in that moment. And that moment could really just be a second that they all needed. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Candace. Yeah, being intentional, right? So great to share a perspective of being trained and being the trainer and how we need to connect with not only the students, but our adults too, right? We all need to take that time to connect and just get on a personal level. Great. So now we are going to move in to our third question. And this question is, how can teachers integrate class to enhance classroom interactions without feeling it is an additional task, but rather an embedded part of their everyday routines? And we're going to pass it on to Candace to open us up.
So again, for my experience, the one thing I'm going to speak as a program director right now is one biggest thing that me and my staff make sure that we embed is our daily schedule. Everyone is doing, I'm pretty sure everyone here, the 473 people that are here know about a daily schedule, the routine. So how I see it is you're doing it every day. You engage with children, you interact with the families as well, but just being with a teacher child is that my teaching staff, every day that they're working with the children there, they see that they're following a routine. And with that, that's how it's your classroom flows well. The behavior management goes. That's when you start dealing with your the biggest topic, your concept development. That's when a lot of people start bringing their big ideas or their study topics as you go, if you're working with creative curriculum as well. But this is where you start getting your engagement with your students. So the biggest thing here is knowing that it starts off with just the daily schedule. And from there, you branch out to many things, the conversations that get enriched and provide across the board.
Awesome. Yes, those daily schedules at any age level, right? It works for our littlest littles to our third grade kiddos, and routines, really just to help support our behavior management. Great. Any other feedback?
Yes, I'll go. I love this question. I think this is my favorite question. I just like Candace said about being the daily schedule. I think one of the things in my experience as a coach and a trainer and doing technical assistance around the class tool is that teachers are already doing class. And so when they're thinking, oh, this is like another thing that now they want us to do, they're already doing it, but they might not know they're doing it. And so it's my job as a trainer or a coach, or when I'm doing technical assistance, to point out to them, you're already doing that. So when you're at breakfast with the children and you're having a conversation, you're doing it. Like you are practicing those class strategies. Sometimes I hear teachers say, I got to do class. Well, you don't have to do class. You just have to do you. You just have to be you because you're already doing it. And it's my job to make sure that I help them understand from a strength-based perspective when they're doing it well, and how to carry over that skill set into other areas of their classroom. It's just like when we started learning DRDP, we all were like, what is this? I'm going to learn all these measures. But then we quickly learned that one observation of a child fit many measures. It's the same with class. Every conversation you're having is class, and you can utilize those conversations for many other things that you need that are required for you to observe or report out or whatever it is. So I really think it's really letting teachers know you're already doing it and at what level they're doing it, and then how to take what they're really good at and keep doing more of that.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. So again, really just appreciate the different points of views and reflection as a coach role and as a trainer. And I think I'm going to steal your line. So just be you, right? You're already doing class. So be you. Great. All right. Anybody else?
Yes, yes. Oh, I totally agree with Melissa. Yes. And I love having her as a coach because it is true with teachers, especially in state and federal programs. It's another tool. It's something else. It's something else. But with class, she's right. A lot of the concepts and everything that's in there, we are already doing, and it helps us to point out, okay, where am I more weak at, and where's my strength at? And for me, I was struggling, with concept development and the feedback loops and getting children in conversation. Because I get so excited, and you just talk and talk and talk, and you need to teachers just slow down to listen, to really truly listen to those kids. So it is part of the daily routine. And then I broke it down into smaller chunks and put like little mini posters around my classroom. And every morning I look at it as I'm locking my purse away. I remember that. I remember that. And it kind of puts a smile on my face and makes it so much more authentic throughout the day. But one of the greatest strategies we have is we do creative curriculum. So right now we're doing our investigation on trees. So we have 3 tables of children, for mealtime and small group, and we put like laminated pictures. Like right now we have different trees or different things kids can do in trees. And it's such a great talking point that builds meaningful conversations with those kiddos and gets us in deeper conversation instead of just talking about the food, which is great, but really building those really critical thinking skills with them. And typically we all have open-ended questions or provocations that we are already implementing, but the class tool kind of broadens that understanding of concepts and ideals for the children. But with anything new, practice and embedding the tool makes it really simple to add to the daily routine without feeling we have additional work. Teachers can focus on viewing as the lens to analyze interactions and using reflective practices to continuously to improve those interactions with those students based on observations. Like Melissa said, we're already doing observations for DRDPs. This kind of blends on over. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Alicia. Continue to be you. But a lot of great strategies to support teachers, right? Posting around the classroom, linking in parents, just creating that engagement to help support the class tool that will then in return support your assessments and your curriculum. So awesome strategies. All right. I think that was everybody. So we'll go ahead and round out the discussion with question number 4, and I'll read that again. So what strategies can be used to extend the positive interactions and relationships fostered in the classroom to the home environment? So we are going to pass it off to Candace to open this question up for us.
So one strategy that we do use here is we have in our parent handbook some activities that we provided feedback from our parents, which we call our parent advisory committee, but also with myself is activities that we have for 18 to 5 years old. 18 months to 5 years old here at our center. So what we did is we created activities that they can implement that we used, again, everyone probably knows our ASQs to our DRDPs to even individualized time, but also their individual development plans or their IDPs or IEPs that we use that I took across the board and worked with our team as well as our families that created activities that they could take at home, that they could work with them between 3 to 5 minutes, depending on their age range, but even depending on the child's needs, because some kids, I don't think a whole 18 months sometimes wants to do a 3-minute activity, but as a parent, and even as a teaching staff or myself, that just definitely means that you need to engage differently. Your quality of interaction with that child means you need to pick it up. You need to be Disneyland right now, So these activities that we do have in the parent handbook we do provide, make sure that we use whatever we use here at school, they're able to bring it at home. And my biggest thing is you don't need to go to Lakeshore or all these great places that definitely help, but they have things that are at home that you can use. If it's just basic counting, why can't you not count your socks? Why can't you not count the cans that are in your cupboard? Or why can't you not count your forks, right? Or just things as simple as just taking a nature walk. We're big here at Dominguez Hills. We're very blessed with space, as crazy as that might seem here in Carson. But we have a really great environment that gives us nature walks that as a parent of little ones, I take them for a walk. And that's when we have our engagement of just like simple counting or what if questions or questions that you learned. And this really helps out by family engagement, but also helping out the parents and also our staff. And when we have our one-on-one time with our parent conferences or just in passing, they let us know how their child's developing or how we can help at school and at home so we could bridge that gap to get them ready for kindergarten, because that's why we're in this field. So that's my little students.
Awesome. Thanks, Candace. I really appreciate you incorporating supports within your parent handbook. This is such a great idea. We know that this is really our first connection with a lot of our parents, so offering this quick connection is so important. And sometimes those activities are hard to come up with. So yes, find your socks at home and count them. Awesome. All right, who's next?
I can go. I was just thinking as Candace was talking, I'm a big believer in giving children jobs, things to do. And so I think it's really important, 2 points. One, for parents to just talk to your children, just have a conversation with your children to build language. A lot of times when parents pick up their children, they'll say, "What did you do today?" And the child says, "I played." And I would tell my parents, ask them, "What did you learn today?" And that it really opens up the question for the child a little bit more. Things like taking them to the grocery store. We're going to make chicken and vegetables for dinner. What vegetables do you think we should have today? How much chicken do we think we need to buy? Like by parents just learning the types of open-ended questions. Tell me more about, right? That's an easy one for parents. Tell me more about your coloring. Tell me more about your block building. Tell me more about, like, just giving them some. So I think for me, it was helpful to send home questions for them based on what we were learning in the classroom so that they could extend that. But I think we need to really help parents learn how to have conversation with their children, not talk at their children. And I think that that's a really crucial point.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. So again, linking in that autonomy, right, which is so important to the class tool, helping our parents understand those open-ended questions and how to ask them, because we strive to use them in the classroom every day. Those conversations are so important. Great. Alicia, did you have any feedback on this question?
I so agree with Melissa. Take those devices away and talk to your children. So I have a daily question every day for our kiddos and our families out there. They have pictures on there in case parents can't read. So we have the actual picture of the item right now. Today was banana tree and a pineapple tree. What fruit tree do you like the best? Write the first letter of your name under there. So, and then I'm talking them through it, like, oh, you can ask them more questions and giving them prompts and to use at home and taking it at home. And then that daily question coincides with the classroom investigation each day. So then the teachers can expand on those conversations started by the families. We as a team, we provide tips for families on how they can engage their children in meaningful conversation and that their children are capable. They are capable. For our kiddos, I'm in part of the IEEP grant, which is an inclusion grant in Orange County. And for kiddos with speech and language disabilities, I'm about at 50% in both my classrooms right now. We provide the parents first and then cards, strategy boards, sign language cards, picture cards, because we use a lot of sign language at school too, even for those kids who are nonverbal or choosing to be nonverbal. But the families also participate in classroom activities. They're called Wildcat Adventures, and my SDC preschool next door and we modify them because, of course, they're not appropriate for our kiddos. And we'll front load the parents a month ahead of time. So right now we're on trees, but prior to that, we were doing investigation on wheels. So at the beginning of that month, we have the parents use whatever materials that they have around their home and build a car, a vehicle with their kid. And it was so exciting each day hearing them talk about it. Or the kids came and shared, my dad, we painted it today. Or today my mom added flowers to it and a cup holder. You should see some of these cars. They've been really great. But at the end, both the SDC preschool and the Gen Ed preschool, our goal this year is to have these families really collaborate and get to know each other because their kids spend a lot of time with each other every day. So we rented out the library and had a drive-in movie theater. And you should have seen how proud the parents were and them talking with each other and talking about wheels and all the things that the kids have done. So the parents there talking really created that really natural like conversation, not forced, language with their kids. It was just absolutely amazing. And this month, the city's going to come plant a tree for us with a little plaque. So yay for the investigation. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alicia. So more strategies, right, that can be used at various age levels and connecting those conversations to the curriculum. Strategies including the first and then cards, visuals related to your curriculum, home activities related to the curriculum to tie school and home together. Such awesome strategies. Perfect. So that rounds out our 4 questions. We got through them pretty fast tonight. So if anybody on the panel has any last thoughts or statements that they want to share with the larger group before we close out, please feel free to do so. Melissa, Candace, Alicia, any last thoughts?
I would. Today, I would share a story briefly about one of my first kiddos I had about 8 years ago here at Westmont. And he was nonverbal and displayed a lot of behaviors, those negative behaviors. And he's in 5th grade now. And over the last years, they would have trouble even bringing him onto school. But my classroom was his safe space. And he still remembers like those PBI strategies that we blended with class. They're called Pete the Cat's Rockin' School Shoes, where we put them up to celebrate people when they did something small achievement or a big class achievement. But today I saw him and he's like, Miss McKinnish, I haven't been to your class in a long time. And I said, yeah, I know. I'm like, I'm so happy you feel safe at the school. And to see him with the language and the social skills that he has now, I know that it's a lot of teachers building that over the years, but he's like, I remember when Pete the Cat, and you told me that, like he remembered those little things from being in preschool, and you can see it growing throughout the years. So it's just a special dear story to my heart.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else? Melissa?
Yeah, I just want to add,
Candace?
I don't know how much time we have, but just really quickly, I've seen a lot of questions coming through the Q&A about environments. And although this is not a training that's like a webinar about like how do you do class environments, I just do want to encourage everybody. I know that the link has been put in the Q&A to really check that out. Because as we know, class is about the interactions, right? Those high quality interactions with children that build critical thinking skills, build language, build autonomy, create a loving, caring, warm environment for children. But the environment plays a piece in that. And so it's really important to look at what does your classroom have? And like Candace had mentioned, with parents, like you don't have to buy all the stuff at the place, right? There's a lot of things in your home you can use. I think 50% of my classroom when I was a teacher was stuff I brought or that parents would donate, right? We didn't have a lot of money to buy materials. And so I think the environments piece is crucial. And so really looking at that environment as your third teacher, that really supports the children, right? The materials support the interactions that you have with the children. The materials are not there to teach the child. The materials are there to support you in your interactions with the children. So I really encourage you all to take a look at that class environment tool and kind of see what you have and how those materials go hand in hand with your conversations.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. Candace, any last closing thoughts?
I guess just to sum it up, like Melissa's saying, even Alicia, like I know we're talking about class, agreed, is that you are setting your tone. Setting the classroom environment is a big reflection of how you're going to go ahead and deliver the message that you're trying to get to as an educator, but as a person alone. My biggest takeaway here with class is like everyone is saying, just be you, do you. But the biggest thing is again, for my part, is we came into child development knowing that we're going to be the first teachers or the first educators to help parents succeed or this child succeed for their future, because as we know, we are teaching the new generation. So just take your time on it. You don't have to think I'm getting scored. There's all these verbiage you're going to hear and whatnot, but as long as you care of what you're doing in the field of early education, then you're going to succeed no matter what, because everyone here their intent is for us to do better for the future of these kids. So I'm going to close it at that.
Awesome. Seeing a lot of hearts being sent your guys' way. So my number one takeaway from this discussion is be you. I think that's our new tagline for the night. But I want to thank all 4 of our amazing panelists for their contributions today. We had such rich discussions. So some of my other takeaways from tonight really speak to connecting home and school, right? So linking our parents into our students' learning. And we can do this at any level: preschool, kindergarten, TK, first, second, and third. And just really offering those strategies for our parents to support their kiddos' learnings. And then just really establishing opportunities for our students to become autonomous, right? We want them to be little leaders in their learning and in their classrooms. But for me, Melissa hit it home, setting up our environment to aid as an additional teacher. We should really be striving to create environments where our kids feel safe and supportive and where they feel comfortable learning every day. So again, I want to thank all of our 4 panelists. And if we can please resume our screen share. Perfect. Thank you. So as mentioned at the start of the webinar, CDE is excited to offer professional development certificates to all attendees of this live session. Your certificate will be emailed to the address you used for registration. And if you do not receive it by December 3rd, please contact us via the UPK mailbox that was shared at the start of the webinar. The link to the mailbox will also be shared in the chat again right now. And please note that certificates will only be issued to those who attend the live webinar. So now I will pass it back to Sarah for reflections and closing. Thank you, everyone. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Jade. Wow, everyone, what a great discussion and such content with actionable takeaways. Like, I wish I was still in the classroom because I was taking notes and thinking of things that I could immediately change, improve, and put into action for our children. At CDE, we continually ask, how are children better off because of our decisions and our investments? This focus on improved results helped lead us to class and class environment. Talking to people like Dominique really helped inform some of the strategies, the why, and how focusing on our educator practice, supporting us all to do better in our spaces and help children feel included, engaged, and belonged, that would make a healthier, stronger, more inclusive setting. So just a quick quote from Dominique: we impact the hearts, hands, brain of children. So by improving our teacher practice, we know it's all about our teachers. Educators are the critical ingredient in the secret sauce for thriving children. So I want to take a moment and say thank you to everyone that made this webinar happen today around this critical topic of using class to promote effective interaction and build positive relationships in P3 settings. I want to thank all of our participants who made time in their busy days to attend this webinar and hear the content presented. So that's all of you. A deep thank you and sense of gratitude. And once again, a thank you to our presenters, Dominique McCain, who I owe so much for. Stephanie said it well. Every time I listen to Dominique, I learn more. To Candace Matsalala, Janelle Lawrence, Melissa Whelan, and Alicia McInish, thank you. I appreciate what you shared today. I also would like to thank our CDE team. We are only as good as our team, and I have the very best team ever. So without all of you, this webinar would not have even been possible, and you made it a great success. Steve, Shanna, Monique, Stephanie, Jade, Beth, Teresa, our entire UPK implementation and support office team with Valentina, Anna, Nicole, Stacy, Stephen, Sarah, Jennifer, Kate, and Stephen. Our technology services department who helped let us have a webinar and make sure we all get on. So many great minds working together to make this event happen, including our ASL interpreters. Thank you to the entire team, and thank you to all of the participants for your time today. We greatly appreciate you. We now leave you with a quote from Maya Angelou that we think sums up why we're doing the class. At the end of the day, people won't remember what you said or did. They will remember how you made them feel. We are here to help children feel loved, that they belong, and help them learn and grow so every opportunity in front of them is open to them. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you again.